Greetings. Welcome to So Much to Talk About. My name is Nabaté Isles, and it's always a pleasure to share facts and viewpoints on the world of sports and sometimes music. And I want to wish all of you a happy and blessed holiday season as we are approaching the end of 2020, a very difficult year overall, but looking for new horizons in 2021. But before I introduce the gentleman that I'm featuring this evening, I want to let you all know to make sure to go to my YouTube page, N as in no, S as in Sam, I as in Indigo, NSI World, to see past episodes of So Much to Talk About, as well as past interviews on location. So you'll get to see all of the great individuals I've had the honor to speak with. And this week, I have the honor to speak with this wonderful individual. He's one of the great boxing writers in the world, and he's been in the game for 25 years. He started off with houseofboxing.com, then became the editor-in-chief for maxboxing.com, and now he's part of the preeminent boxing publication by the name of Ring Magazine, as he is the editor-in-chief of that publication, as well as the editor-in-chief for RingTV.com, overseeing their video content. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce the one and only Mr. Doug Fischer on So Much to Talk About. How you doing? It's the Charlos. Yep, Jamal and Jamel.
Yeah,
yes,
the
indeed.
New generation. And the next issue, which just went to the printers, Teofimo Lopez.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bright young stars on the horizon.
Right, and Doug, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. We have those. Yes, we have the Teofimo Lopez's and the Charlos and the Ryan Garcias and the Tank Davises, and all those guys, coming up and everything. Oh, also too, of course, Anthony Joshua still. I would say up and coming to be a superstar because he's almost there.
He's not old by heavyweight standards.
Right.
Very accomplished. Accomplished for his age and the number of fights he has, and he's a bona fide superstar in the UK.
Yes, and
has star potential here in the US. The one time he fought here, he had quite the setback. He got tripped up. And that was still. I don't know if you were there.
I was not there.
It was a party. I mean, it was a good undercard. It was a good show right up into the main event. I'm gonna guesstimate there were between 8,000 and 10,000 Brits who flew in from.
Yeah, they know when Ricky Hatton had those, Floyd, because Floyd said to Ricky. Remember he said to Ricky,
they took over the arena. They were 90%.
Yeah, Floyd said to Ricky Hatton, I wish I had fans
traveled like Ricky Hatton.
Exactly. Floyd was saying, I wish I had that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, most fighters would. I mean, as popular as Joshua is, he doesn't have an army following, but he had enough to, give the atmosphere a very English boxing event, big boxing event atmosphere inside of Madison Square Garden. They were singing songs, and it was a big party.
Yeah.
Until the fight started, and then it was scary for them. And Joshua lost that fight, bounced back like a champion should.
That's right.
And so we'll see how he does against Pulev in a couple of weeks. Pulev. That might be a dangerous fight. I don't know. He should get by. And should he get by, then there's a potential, all Britain, all British, all English super fight at heavyweight that can be made. And that's one of the biggest fights, biggest events that can take place in boxing in 2021. But yeah, I would still say Joshua, you can look at him as, he's an established unified champion, but he's still an up and comer. He's still learning. He's still climbing because he's not, Fury has fought here, has fought in the U.S.
That's right.
A number of times, and he has those 2 fights with Deontay Wilder. So he's better known in America than Anthony Joshua is. And that should be a goal of Joshua to come over here and not just fight in the U.S. but win.
Yeah, right.
He's probably do that, man. He's a global superstar.
Wow. And Doug, wanted to ask you the future of boxing with all these superstars that we are talking about. Can boxing be able to reach the level of popularity that mixed martial arts is at UFC in particular?
It's tough. Here's the thing with UFC, which is almost in America and really worldwide, the UFC is such a brand. It's synonymous with its own sport, mixed martial arts. People say MMA and UFC interchangeably. To a casual fan, a casual combat sports fans, there might be a fight that's let's say it's Bellator, and they may slip up and call it the UFC fight. You watching the UFC? You know what I mean?
Wow.
This tells you they did a really good job. They've done a good job.
That's right.
Since the 2000s.
Great point.
And it's hard because their fans are gratified. They put on a consistently quality product. They're and the fighter, it's organized more like a sport in which you know contenders climb the ladder, and when they reach a certain status, either within the league, and that's what the UFC is, it's a league, or within the court of popular opinion, they get their title shot. Yeah. And boxing hasn't operated that way in a long time. Even, even when I was a young fan and I wasn't really aware of boxing politics in the late 70s and early 80s, the politics were there. You had a fighter as marvelously talented as Marvin Hagler, and he was #1 contender for a long time. That's right. And he wasn't getting his title shot. And then even when he got his title shot, he was, against Vito Antuofermo. He was, that was in 79. Yeah. He was denied it. It was a draw, but it should have been a draw. So boxing has these problems, and it goes back decades. It's nothing new. But the problem of the best not facing the best, and the matchups that the hardcore fan contingency want to see, that's worse than ever. So it's going to be hard in the UFC. Generally speaking, you're going to get that. If there's a dream fight within the UFC, it can be made a lot quicker than a dream fight in boxing. And because of that, it's tough for boxing to supersede the UFC right now, because UFC has that consistency. Every month there's a pay-per-view show, and they have a lot of cards and shoulder programming between those monthly big events. And boxing is all over the place. It's tribal, and it's spread out. The talent is spread out. There's a lot of talent. We just mentioned a lot. And just look at the lightweight division. So we have a new lightweight champion, Teofimo Lopez.
Yes, indeed.
He's just 23. Yeah. He's 23 and he's in everybody's pound for pound list now because he beat Vasily Lomachenko.
And a New Yorker from Brooklyn, so brings New York back to New York boxing.
Yeah. So there's he can be marketed. I mean, he's from one of the biggest markets in America, the New York City, the greater New York City area, and Brooklyn itself is very special within boxing, and he's Latino, and that's something, you know what I mean? And he's a good looking guy, and he speaks well, and he's brash, and he has personality, and
humble, and still humble.
Right, he's humble, but he can also talk the talk, but it's okay because he walks the walk, right? And he didn't wait. He didn't want to be in an incubator for a number of years. He didn't have to get to 25-0 or 30-0 or whatever. He was like, let me get a belt as soon as possible. He did so in his 15th pro fight. Yeah. That was Comey. Yeah. Richard Comey. Boom. Yeah. Explosive second round knockout. And then he wanted the man. He could have milked that. He could have had some IBF title defenses against guys and make good money, and continue to build his personal brand and his fan base and all. But he's like, no, I want the glory right now. I want to go for it. And a lot of people, myself included, were thinking that's a bit too soon. This dude's got a difficult style. He's not going to stand there and let you hit him like Comey. And
that's right.
You're not used to fighting the distance. You've gone 12 rounds once, and the one time you went 12 rounds, you won. Yeah, clearly
starches.
Won,
the punches didn't have the starch.
Yeah. He just didn't. It made you think, well, you're not quite there yet. But he announced to the world that he is there. His time is now.
That's right.
So we have this vibrant young champion and a lot of potential dance partners in or around lightweight. So you have Gervonta Davis, who moves the needle, and he had a terrific performance.
Tank against Leo Santa Cruz.
Probably the knockout of the year. And he has a fan base that follows him. He sells tickets.
That's right.
More where he's from.
And he had Conway
here in the LA area. And in Atlanta, when he fought Yuri Gamboa, that says something.
like rappers reference him, Conway the Machine, everything, you know, so reference Tank Davis. So yeah,
he,
you know,
he moves the needle, as does Ryan Garcia.
yes,
You can consider him a social media influencer, a
mm-hmm.
social media star, just like Jake Paul. Only Ryan Garcia is a real boxer, and he has a lot of potential. And so here's the thing: Teofimo Lopez is with Top Rank and fights on the ESPN platform. Tank Davis is Mayweather
PBC.
Promotions, Al Heyman, PBC, fights on Showtime, maybe on Fox. Ryan Garcia is Golden Boy Promotions. He fights on DAZN. And these guys, I mean, you know, a lesser talented fighter, you know, or an older fighter, you know, who's way past his prime, or somebody up and comer who doesn't move the needle. These promotional companies will send them over. They'll let them cross the street to fight on another platform, or the network, or the platform will say it's okay for the promoter to take that talent across the street. But with the stars of each tribe, they stay within that tribe, and that's the problem.
Right.
That's the problem. And so you don't get those round robins, which creates fans. You know, in the 80s, it was the Four Kings with Sugar Ray Leonard and
Roberto Duran, Marvis Hagler, and of course Tommy Hearns. Yeah.
Right. And they all fought each other. From 1980 to 1989, they fought each other. You know, there was 9 fights involving these guys, and they were fighting the top contenders like Wilfredo Benitez.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah, Wilfredo Benitez.
And other guys. So there's other top guys who are interesting, and you get to see them fight others, but then they're fighting each other, and they're not just a big event. For the most part, they made for compelling fights.
And none of them fought Aaron Pryor, though.
Yeah, that was although I'll say this: Aaron Pryor was burnt out by 1982. You know what I mean?
Yeah, after a second Aguayo fight, right? True.
It was a nosedive. It was his own personal habits. You know, cocaine is a hell of a
rest his soul. Yeah,
crack's no joke either.
Yeah, man.
You know, and he's a bit small. He was a bit small. He was really a natural lightweight who turned out to be one of the greatest 140-pounders of all time, but never proved himself at welterweight. You had to at least get to welterweight to be a part of that round robin. Duran was able to do it.
Yeah, right.
And maybe Aaron Pryor could have done it, but he didn't.
Yeah.
So I'll never say anybody, especially my boyhood idol, Sugar Ray Leonard, I'll never agree that he ducked. Right. I'm not gonna go with that.
I'll just say because he beat Tommy Hearns in the amateurs, you know.
He's an amazing talent.
Yeah,
you know,
wow.
That was at 132 pounds, and Tommy Hearns was a boy.
Yeah, true.
That was before Tommy Hearns developed the power.
Woo, that's right.
Well, honestly, I think things would have went different in a professional contest.
Oh, okay.
It's a mythical matchup. It's just my opinion. You never know.
Yeah.
You never know. But that's why these guys got to fight the fights. And right now, you know, last night, you know, Mike Tyson-Roy Jones Jr. fought an exhibition, and it was a pay-per-view, and I bet it did okay. And part of the reason why a fight like that, it's not even a fight, an exhibition, can get, you know, between guys who are in their 50s, can get so much attention, is that the contemporary fighters aren't fighting each other. The best of today, and there are some really exceptional talents out there. They're not fighting often enough, and they're not fighting each other enough to create attention. So we have to go back in time. We have to be nostalgic and go back to our iconic fighters like Roy and Mike. And to their credit, they gave it a good effort. And entertaining. And nobody got hurt, and it was a lot of fun.
And Doug, well, talking with the great Doug Fischer, editor-in-chief for Ring Magazine and RingTV.com here on So Much to Talk About. And Doug, wanted to ask you about that. Like Roy Jones, everyone was concerned about, because he in his later in his career, violently he's been knocked out. But what did you think of his chin and how he was like, actually, there were times in the clinches that he was pushing Mike back.
Smart.
You know?
I thought tactically Roy did what he needed to do to avoid the bomb. And that meant avoiding some bad habits he had when in his prime. In his prime, he would do this to set a trap, willingly go to the ropes. He would willingly go to the ropes. He was so big and strong and powerful and explosive and dynamic as a middleweight and super middleweight. against anybody, he could go to the ropes and just cover up like a journeyman, you know, and basically do his version of a rope-a-dope. But it wasn't a rope-a-dope. It wasn't like the older version of Ali where he would let guys tire themselves out. It was, he was setting a trap because he was so fast and reflexive. He could counter you to the body or head.
Yeah.
With either hand.
One punch, and bunches.
Or he could let a flurry go or a combination go. But he would be standing straight up, leaning against the ropes like this, and then, you know, the guy comes and, okay, I'm going to try to hurt him or at least score some points by letting my hands go. And he, boom, just right off, boom, knock him out sometimes.
Yeah.
Because he could do that, but that became a bad habit as he was such an exceptional athlete and such a natural boxing talent. And I define that as the understanding of spacing, distance, positioning, timing, you know, and using that to avoid getting hit. But the ability to put yourself in position to hit your opponent where they can't hit you. You could do that, but it wasn't textbook technique. His form was like, if somebody else tried to do that, they would get hurt. It would be a mistake to fight like Roy Jones Jr. without Roy Jones Jr. talent. So he had bad habits. He cultivated bad habits because of his amazing talent and ring generalship, IQ. And when he got older and heavier as a light heavyweight and the legs got a little slower or a little less spring, you know, then he would go to the ropes because he had to. And get caught more than he should. And he could still win a fight doing that. But, you know, later on in his career when he shouldn't have been fighting, you know, he would go to the ropes and get hurt.
And when he didn't, and the problem
or
is,
he get hurt and then go to the ropes and get, you know, finished or whatever. And so my worry for this fight with Tyson, especially in the first round, maybe the first 2 rounds, is at some point he goes to the ropes. And that's when Tyson can really get that leverage and corner him and get at an angle and just blast him, right? And then and in my mind's eye, it's a one-hitter. He gets knocked out. I mean, if Enzo Macaronelli is knocking you out or Danny Green is knocking you out, you know, you're gonna, you know, Tyson, even a 54-year-old Tyson, if he's in shape and motivated like he was, gonna knock you out because you're not really a heavyweight. So, but he didn't do that. He punched on the fly really well. And I could tell he got into shape because his timing was there. And he was fast and, you know, fast enough. He wasn't fast by young Roy Jones standards. It was kind of slow motion by young Roy Jones. I like how he punched on the fly. What he did on the inside, you know, he was able to tie Tyson up and he didn't just try to grapple him. He would walk him back. He would push him back. And that's what you need to do because Tyson is a momentum fighter. He needs to come forward. That's his game. That's his style.
That's right.
So if you stifle that forward momentum, you stifle his style.
A la Holyfield. A la Holyfield.
There were still choice punches, right? Holyfield did that exactly. In that first fight, he pushed him back. Got in there and pushed, and then Tyson loses something, or like the rematch between Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez. Alvarez faked out the center of the ring. He didn't back up. He didn't give him that momentum. He didn't give him that opportunity to come forward because that's his game. He's used to stiff jab, power jab forward, and then everything off of that. And in the first fight, Canelo thought he was doing okay going to the ropes, but that played into Golovkin's style.
Yes,
made Golovkin look good.
That's right.
Even if Canelo thought himself, well, I'm not getting hurt, I'm okay.
It
wasn't the right tactic, and he learned. And the rematch was still very close. Could have gone either way. I had it a draw. Very close fight. Excellent craft from both middleweights.
Both guys,
But by not backing up, Canelo took something away from Golovkin. Took away a little bit of his game. And Tyson is that type of fighter. He has to come forward. Same thing with Joe Frazier against George Foreman. Big and strong enough to just stiff arm and keep it. No, I'm not going to back up.
That's right.
You know, and I'm going to run you into an uppercut. You know, and it just
styles make fight
away from Joe. It's like, oh crap. Well, you know, he's not somebody to orbit a fighter and get on his toes and hit you with a jab. You know,
and get angles and do angles and stuff.
It's straight up pressure fighter, volume puncher. If you take that away from him, take away his game. You take away his mojo. I felt a little bit sorry for Sugar Ray Leonard. He does take it seriously, and he does know how they feel. Of everybody who was commentating, I know there was a young MMA fighter.
Yeah, Israel Adesanya, the great Israel Adesanya. Yeah, he's going to be a star
now.
Yeah, right.
He's not a Hall of Famer,
right?
Who was, he was a former champion, decades removed from his prime. So of the broadcast booth, Leonard understands Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson on a level that nobody else can understand, because it's rare that you become a great fighter. It's even rarer that you're a great fighter and you capture the zeitgeist of your era, right? Like you're iconic, like Mike Tyson. Like Mike Tyson is just, he was the 80s, you know what I mean?
That's
like
right. That's right.
He was boxing. He made fans, and he, and now he's as popular as Muhammad Ali was when Muhammad Ali was still alive.
Yes.
You can get in a plane. I could fly you over and drop you off anywhere in the globe.
That's right.
In the middle of Africa.
Greenland,
Greenland. Wherever you go, if you're somebody there, they don't have to speak English. You can say Mike Tyson. They know who you're talking about. So he's one of those rare global household names. And Leonard, Sugar Ray Leonard was like that. Roy Jones, not quite to that level, but still here in America, like when Roy was in his prime, he was untouchable, and he was that, like he was the epitome of what a super talent is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he was just like this, he was untouchable, and at the same time dynamic and dangerous in the ring, when he was at his best. And it was amazing. It was like, wow, this guy can do things other people can't. So and Leonard was like that. Leonard's prime, Leonard, 1979 and 1981 version of Sugar Ray Leonard was like, to me, he was like Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Boxing gloves. He was
That's
like,
right. From Benitez to No Mas. From Benitez to the No Mas in that time period.
Yeah, like that, those combinations and that speed, but that focus and that intensity. I mean, even among great prize fighters, very few ever had that, and Tyson could turn that on, obviously. And Roy could too, where they just get rid of their opposition, even if it's elite level.
That's right.
He wasn't able to really share that because it wasn't the right format. It just wasn't. It was like, okay, we're just going to have fun with it. And I'm not mad at Snoop Dogg for kind of taking over and just having a good time and
being hilarious.
Because what he did was he brought the pay-per-view party atmosphere to the broadcast booth.
That's right.
And everybody else had fun, but Sugar Ray couldn't really get in. You know the old saying, get in where you fit in. There was nowhere for him to fit in. But it was, to me, it was kind of too bad because of everybody involved with the promotion. He's the one guy who knows what these guys are feeling.
And it's generational, unfortunately. We're in a generation where people are not into the authenticity of stuff anymore. It's about the
even if he had the opportunity to express it, it may have fallen on deaf ears, audience or whatever. It's just like, but I did. I'm whatever. Next time I see him, I'm going to ask him about it. And I'll get the answer, but like he knows what they felt like when they were down. You know what I mean? Like when Roy Jones coming off a knockout to somebody who he would have schooled and, who would have knocked out in a sparring session 10 years prior. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He knows what Roy felt like, the day after, weeks after, being ridiculed or just feeling like, damn, what happened? That wasn't supposed to happen. And he knows, the depths of depression and all the stuff that Mike Tyson has been through.
That's right.
He's been through all those peaks and valleys and trials and tribulations, all the while still being a great fighter, and then understanding that desire to, I want to get back to the ring because that's going to save me. That's going to bring order to my life. I'm going to clean up. I'm going to get focused. I'm going to feel like how I used to feel.
Yes.
And that was really the beauty of that exhibition. Even though they didn't look like themselves, when they were in their primes, there were flashes of it.
That's right.
Flashes of their old form. And I'm sure when they're doing it and they get it right, it must have felt right.
And Mike gave him the credit of taking everything. Roy, he said Roy was taking he took all of it, So wow, here with the great Doug Fischer, editor-in-chief of Ring Magazine and RingTV.com, here on So Much to Talk About. My name is Nabaté Isles. And Doug, what are the 5 fights we need to see in the next 2 years that have to happen? The 5 fights.
5 fights in the how many years do we have?
In 2021, 2022, within the next 2 years.
Oh, in the next. Oh,
when we start to get fans back, getting fans.
Top. There's an old saying in boxing. So goes the heavyweight division. So goes the rest of the sport. And right now, 2 British guys have all the titles.
That's right.
Tyson Fury, the Gypsy King, has got the Ring Magazine and WBC championship belts. And those, by the way, those are the 2 most iconic belts.
Yeah, the ring is the
fun
pro
of
belt.
Mauricio Suleiman all you want. The dude's a marketing genius. And the old man was they get that everywhere. They'll take over any promotion. They took over Tyson Jones, man. They had belts for the exhibitions. They had 2 championship belts ready for both of them.
That's right.
And Suleiman right there in the ring, and he's good. He's good on camera.
Yes.
Speaks well. Look, man. They know how. Let me look.
There you go.
I got a belt, man. This is all I was worth. This size. That's all I'm worth. But they know how to that. It's an iconic belt because all the great champions had it. Tyson, Ali, Julio Cesar Chavez. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So, and then the Ring Magazine belt is goes back to 1922.
Of course, yeah. That's the belt. That's the
iconic.
Right.
In its own right. It's the hardest belt. I think Teofimo Lopez said it best. He said, I love my belts, but anybody can be a WBC champion.
That's right.
WBC champion. It's hard getting this Ring Magazine belt.
Right, because that means you cleaned out your division. You cleaned out your division. You know what I'm saying?
You had to climb the ranks. Generally speaking, you have to have a belt and fight another guy with a belt. A lot of times, 2 or more belts are on the line when the vacant Ring Magazine championship is on the line.
That's right.
Oftentimes it's the unified champion, the undisputed champion. But in this case, the other guy, the guy who doesn't hold the Ring Magazine championship belt, has 3 world titles, and that's
Anthony Joshua. Yes, sir.
And they're both superstars in the UK, probably all of Europe. They're stadium fighters over there. They're arena fighters here when they fight here. If they fought each other, it would be huge. I think it has to happen. That's for all the marbles. It's undisputed. The heavyweight king. Great if the fight is good, and it could be. So that's. I think that's the biggest boxing event that could be made in 2021 or 2022. And it should happen in 2021. But boxing is boxing. You know what I'm saying? You got guys,
but also with the COVID, they want to make sure they get a crowd. Got to have a crowd in there. There's whatever's going on legally between Team Fury and Team Deontay Wilder. Wilder still wants that 3rd fight, so that might have to happen first. If Joshua gets past Pulev, that's an IBF mandatory. Well, then he's got a WBO mandatory, and that's Usyk. Usyk, right? That's what I wanted to ask you, Alexander Usyk. Could he give problems to Joshua or Fury, even though he's small, but his boxing pedigree is impeccable?
Yeah, he's probably the best ring general. Although Fury's he moves around pretty well for a 270-pound man. Yeah, I think they can beat him. I think they can beat him. But he's going to be trouble for anybody. He's got heart. I think he takes a decent shot. I don't know if he could take a direct hit from Anthony Joshua. I don't think if he gets into a fight with Tyson Fury and Fury's able to tie him up and weigh on him. Fury would have 50 pounds. I mean, that's going to tell on you after 6 or 7 rounds. So I don't know what happens in those scenarios. I'd be interested in seeing them. But I think he gives any heavyweight trouble because he moves well. He throws
southpaw too. Southpaw too.
Got a good jab. But I think he's got guts. I think he's got a lot of heart. He can dig deep when it's time.
Yeah. So, the other 4
Oh,
fights.
the welterweight showdown.
Yes,
let's see what happens with Errol Spence. He's still Ring Magazine's #1 rated welterweight. He has 2 belts there. Terrence Crawford is rated higher than Errol Spence in a pound for pound sense.
Mm-hmm.
Crawford showed us that he could punch at 147 pounds. He could change the course of a fight like that. And he's a finisher. I think he's the most versatile 147 pounder. Crawford is.
Right.
They're both undefeated. They're both American. I mean, that's probably #2. That's a fight that has to happen. And it needs to happen because, Terrence Crawford's 33. They're still in their prime, but they're not going to be in their prime in another 2 or 3 years. So it needs to happen sooner rather than later. If it can happen in 2021 or 2022. Listen, it's not going to break pay-per-view records. No, it's really a hardcore fight for hardcore fight fans. But I think it makes for a good fight. I think it makes for a good build-up, a good promotion, a good earnest, honest promotion. There'll be a lot of anticipation on fight night. The boxing world will tune in. The sports world, athletes recognize how good these guys are. So they have their own spheres of influence. So, you're going to have a lot of basketball players and NBA players, certainly MMA fighters weighing in on the matchup.
That's right.
It could have a really good buildup. Does it do 1 million pay-per-view buys? Probably not. Okay.
Yeah.
But so what?
If Top Rank and PBC, if they can be able to
work
together, it could do 1 million. It could do it. If they work together, and being able to
we were talking about that for the Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury rematch, that it could do 1 million plus, and it did 800,000. I just wonder. I mean, again, we're in a pandemic and it's tough times. It's tough economic times right now in America. So who knows? I don't know. I'd like to think. Let's think positively. Like maybe it could do 1 million. Yeah, especially with a cross promotion like that, where ESPN Plus is activated, and the marketing platforms of both Fox and ESPN working in tandem. Yeah, maybe that can do it. But promotion and money aside, it's one of the best matchups that can be made in boxing. It's the 2 best welterweights. And welterweight is a glamour division. Welterweight's the lightest glamour division in America. It's the lightest glamour division.
Yeah.
You're really going to be a crossover star, you have to at least be a welterweight. You can't do it just as a lightweight or a featherweight.
Yeah.
You can't do it, because in America, we're pretty big on average. And, our ideal for an elite level athlete is like 6'4" and 200 plus pounds. You can only get so small, right? So
great point.
Welterweight's as small as we get, and the welterweights, the all-time great welterweights that really people remember, also went up to middleweight.
That's right.
And that's part of the reason. So it's like welterweight, middleweight, heavyweight. Those are the classic glamour divisions in America.
Yes, indeed. And 3 others.
There's some middleweight fights that could be made in the next 2 years that I would love to see. I don't know if the third fight between Canelo Alvarez and Triple G is past its sell-by date, but it's getting there. Like if they can't do it, if the fight can't be made, like say Cinco de Mayo weekend of 2021, I don't know. I mean, let's just forget about that. At that point, let's start talking about Canelo Alvarez versus Jermall Charlo. Let's see the young bloods. Let's see guys who are 30 that have experience, that are on top of their game, and let's see how that works out. And with Charlo, you're talking about a Houston native, and Canelo Alvarez sells very well in Texas. Yeah, I've covered 3 arena fights that Canelo was involved in Texas. The Alamo Dome against Austin Trout.
Yeah. Stadium. The stadium right there. Yeah.
Stadium.
And then Texas Stadium. He fought in Texas Stadium as well, too. I forgot who fought
that. Is it Candlestick Park? The ballpark?
I'm sorry, Arlington. Was it Arlington? No, it was Cowboy Stadium. He fought in Cowboy Stadium.
Right, that was against Liam Smith. That's
right.
18 Stadium.
Yeah.
Whatever. Jerry's World.
Jerry's World.
Whatever. I don't remember. He fought James Kirkland in 2015
Yeah, that could have been
in Houston. It was a ballpark.
Minute Maid Park. Minute Maid Park.
Did I say
Yep.
Candlestick?
I
don't know nothing about baseball. I'm sorry, everybody. Yeah, Minute Maid. That's what it was. That's right. Yeah, but whatever. He's doing 30,000 plus, between 30,000 and 50,000 fans.
Yeah, wow.
So you pair him with a Texas native who's undefeated and dangerous. And
yeah,
I mean, math, man. I mean, maybe they could do 70,000. You know, if they go to Arlington, if they do Jerry's World again.
Wow. So. And two more fights, maybe more obscure fights of great fighters that, you know, mainstream people wouldn't know about.
Oh, well, I would love to see Teofimo at 135 pounds, Teofimo Lopez against Devin Haney. That would be good. Bit of a grudge match because they've gone back and forth with each other. Devin Haney's the boxer, you know, good ring general, unbeaten, very young, just like Teofimo. He's got the WBC belt. Teofimo Lopez says, no, I'm the undisputed champ. Haney says, no, you can't be undisputed. I've got this green belt right here. Teofimo Lopez says, I've got a green belt, but it's the franchise championship that I won from Lomachenko, but I got all the other belts, including the Ring Magazine championship. So, you know, there's some back and forth, but yeah, it's an interesting style matchup because Lopez is a dynamic counterpuncher. And he has the power that Devin Haney seems to be lacking, but Haney is a really good boxer. And he's smart. They're both really intelligent. You talk to them, they're very smart. So that's an interesting, compelling matchup. Teofimo Lopez against Ryan Garcia. If Ryan Garcia blasts Luke Campbell like he says he is, and I don't put it past him, it's possible. But if he can do something to Luke Campbell that Jorge Linares and Vasily Lomachenko couldn't do, boom. Right there, he's proven himself at lightweight. Let's make big fights with Ryan Garcia. But Teofimo Lopez versus Ryan Garcia versus Tank Davis. That's excellent. Guys, social media presence, they move the needle. They impact different markets. You know, they bring in a lot of casual fans and social media influencers and athletes from other sports and that sort of thing. That's a fight that you want to have a live audience for.
Wow.
Because they can feel, because right now on his own, you know, Ryan can do between 8,000 and 10,000 fans. And right now on his own, I think Tank Davis can do between 10,000 and 12,000.
That's right.
14,000.
That's right.
That's on their own. That doesn't matter who they're fighting. That's fighting just guys. And do that, you know. And I saw, you know, I've covered Ryan's fights in Southern California, in Vegas, even New York City when he fought under Canelo Alvarez, when Alvarez fought Rocky Fielding.
Right,
I was surprised when I was thinking, well, we're in New York, he's an LA kid. No one's coming out for him. And I was like, I heard this roar from the crowd. As he entered the ring. And I'm like, man, okay, this kid, he can put butts in the seats in different markets. So rare these days in boxing. It just doesn't happen often. So those two, I think, just because it's I'm not saying the winner of that fight is pound for pound or anything like that. It's just a fan favorite type fight.
And brother,
it's popular fight.
And it's so funny, Doug. I was talking to Bernard Hopkins on my Where They At podcast, and Bernard Hopkins, I mentioned to him, there needs to be a Super 6 lightweight. You need to have Davis, Garcia, Lomachenko, Joseph Diaz.
So you're talking,
Devin Haney,
130. See, and I'll tell you, Shakur Stevenson.
Oh, he could be in that too.
Of course, he's in the mix.
Yeah,
he's an Olympian, and he has the height and the reach. And he's so talented. I mean, he just now stepped up to 130, but if he were to fight any of the title holders, I bet he'd be the odds favorite.
Yeah,
maybe the media favorite.
That's right. Shakur Stevenson, get him in that Super 6.
He could go to 135 and be a part of
that Super 6. And you see, why don't they do that? That's what I mean, having the best fight, and guess what, Doug?
Here's the problem, though.
It can last 2 years.
The promoters have exclusive partnerships with their network, so if they put them all together, well, what platform carries it?
Well, they can split it up. You know what I mean? That's
parts.
Maybe, you know, like just like that. Yeah.
Or maybe the promoters get together and say, listen, we as promoters and the management of the fighters and the fighters themselves, we want to do this. The fighters are willing to do this. and go to the highest bidder. So whichever network, whether it's Fox or ESPN or Showtime or DAZN, maybe whoever comes up with the most money.
Yep.
Right. And maybe with DAZN goes to Eddie. Say, Eddie, you know those the sheiks, right? In the Middle East, right? Like, somebody who will just give us 100 million. And you're like, yeah, Mike, let me see. Let me make some calls, right? And then just because it's Eddie, it's whatever. It's on DAZN in the US and Sky Sports in the UK, or DAZN is in the UK now, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or maybe ESPN is like, you know what? Our guy is Teofimo Lopez, and we talked to Bob, and Bob talked to Bruce Trampler and Carl Moretti, and they said Teofimo whips ass on all of them. Our guy is going to come out victorious. He's already the champion, but he's going to prove it. He's going to be king of the mountain, and his stature is going to be that much higher after he whoops ass, right?
Yeah.
And they think, you know what? It's worth it for ESPN to go all out with the promotion of that, and put it on regular ESPN, and maybe put the finals on pay-per-view, right? Right. Pay-per-view, and it's an ESPN pay-per-view. Or maybe Al Heyman, fundraises and gets the money and gets Fox and Showtime, somehow works out something. But whatever, whoever gives them the best package in terms of the money and the exposure, maybe the payoff is worth it. Like I said, if Top Rank thinks that their guy is going to emerge victorious, him winning that tournament, winning that Super Six, it makes him a superstar.
That's right. The number one pound for pound fighter, whoever that is.
Right. He's not just a pound for pound guy. He's the pound for pound king.
That's right.
And he's a superstar. And you go to ESPN and say he'll be a superstar because these fights are going to be on ESPN. And even if the finals is pay-per-view, then the replay is on regular ESPN and everybody sees it. And now this superstar is in the ESPN business. It's worth the investment, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
But see, that takes cooperation. That takes, not thinking like tribally. You got to get out of the tribal mentality and say it's good for all of us if we just work together, and not have this mentality where it's like, let's not help these other guys out. Let's hope that they're maybe, everybody's struggling in this pandemic. Hopefully they die over here, or hopefully they go out of business over here. And hopefully we can get their fighters over to us and we don't have to deal, and that's playing a long, nasty Machiavellian kind of game, cutthroat game, where it's kind of like, if you work together now, it helps everybody out.
That's right.
And it injects enthusiasm and excitement and anticipation within your fan base. So you satisfy your hardcore fans, so they stop complaining about you and leaving, and they're all in again. And then they're buzzing about it, and that becomes contagious.
Yeah.
And, you bring in new fans. New fans get bitten by the boxing bug because you're doing this tournament style round robins, and some of these fighters bring casual fans or people who are not boxing fans to the dance. Like a Tank Davis and a Ryan Garcia and these others. They'll bring some of their social media following, and there you go. You make fans. There's always got to be some transcendent fighter that brings in somebody who wasn't a fan previously. For me, it was Muhammad Ali, and I wasn't into team sports. I wasn't into sports. I can't say I was into combat sports. The closest thing to combat sports would be Bruce Lee films, karate films, watching stuff like that. But I was a geeky kid, reading comic books and watching Godzilla movies and monster movies and stuff I didn't care about sports figures. So it took someone larger than life, like a superhero type, like Ali was by the 70s. Everyone embraced him by the 70s. It wasn't like, in the early part of the decade when I was a baby, or the 60s. By the late 70s, Ali was the man. He was a heavyweight champ, and he was funny and gregarious. And don't we all love Ali? Of course, because of what he went through. And through Ali, I was introduced to Sugar Ray Leonard, and through Sugar Ray Leonard, I was introduced to the rest of the boxing world. Sugar Ray Leonard had all these dance partners that were scary to me, like Duran, or a threat to my guy, like Tommy Hearns. Like Tommy, I was like, no, don't fight Tommy Hearns. You might get knocked out. Like, don't do that. Oh my God, I'm nervous, for months. Oh, what's gonna happen? Ray, why'd you do this? Like,
man. And then Ray was stalking him,
You know what I mean? And like, you just have, that's how you become a hardcore fan. You gotta have you're a superstar, a transcendent figure can make you a fan of just them. And by virtue of their career, you're a casual boxing fan. But it takes great fights to suck you in and get you bitten by the boxing bug, like I was. And once you're bitten by it, you're stuck.
Everlasting.
Yeah, you're addicted.
And Doug Fischer, I have one more question for you. Talk about Ring Magazine, ringtv.com. What's going on with it? Talk about what you guys are working on.
We're in February. We're 99 years old.
Wow.
So what does that mean? Well, that means it's the countdown to 100. It means throughout 2021, we're going to be celebrating 100 years in boxing all the way up to February 2022. Wow. Will hopefully be a really big celebration. But so there's a lot of things in the works that goes beyond just the publishing the magazine. We're involved in this video game called Esports Boxing Club. Put out Steel City Interactive. And they're an England-based company, Sheffield-based video game company. It's coming out with a new boxing game. And you could fight for the Ring Magazine title. You could fight for the WBC title. You could be Arturo Gatti and fight a contemporary fighter. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Fighter, but it's, you have promoters, like real promoters, like Lou DiBella. You know what I mean? You can align yourself with Lou DiBella. You can align yourself with a certain gym.
Trainer, like Eddie Futch.
So all the
like
managers out there, here's your chance. Get this video game and show us how good you are. Build your fighter up, so it's that kind of thing.
Wow.
So that's a big deal for Ring Magazine because we reach a younger audience. I got kids and my 12-year-old, it's all about games. She's a gamer. And it's not games to her, that's just media to her. That's how she interacts with her friends. That's how they gossip and talk about boys, man. With these video game avatars, and they just play the game and they talk and live stream at the same time and all that. So that's important. We're definitely going to come out with at least one real high-end coffee table book, commemorating 100 years. And then, there's going to be, apparel, equipment, merchandise, that kind of stuff. We'll have like a 100 years logo. But one thing we learned during the pandemic, when the pandemic hit and in March and April and May, all these big fights got cleared off the schedule and there was no boxing, not even club fights. We didn't have a schedule to feed off of, well, what are we going to write about in the magazine? And we just went to nostalgia. We went into the archives and the first one was the Four Kings and it was so popular. It sold out. Wow. We're in the second printing. So we had the Four Kings, and then we did the Gotti Ward trilogy, and then we did the Mike Tyson special. I'll show it again.
Yes, indeed. There it is, right there. Kid Dynamite. When they called him that back then.
This guy's dynamite too, Manny.
Manny,
the living legend.
And the forward by Larry Merchant. Wow.
Yeah, got him out of retirement. How about that, man? So here's the thing. I'm gonna have Merchant do some other stuff because there's some big anniversaries in 2021. There's a 100-year anniversary of a great fighter and 50-year anniversary of a great fight. We're gonna do special issues. But we're going to continue to do that.
Oh,
so I get people come at me on Twitter like,
of course, Ali Frazier. Ali Frazier won 50th anniversary. There we go.
You know.
And then the great fighter who was born in 21. Was it Joe Louis?
No,
it wasn't Joe. No, he was born in 17. What? He was born in 1917. My bad. I think right. Yeah.
But Joe Louis, he's worthy of a special issue. Just Joe Louis.
Yeah.
Sugar Ray Robinson, that's the guy.
I guess what? I got one for you, Doug. I got one for you. You got to give me credit in the publication. The 100 fights we never saw that we should have seen.
Ooh, that's interesting. 100 fights we should have saw. I like that. That's like a mythical matchup kind of thing.
Yes.
You have a little bit of a twist on that because you're not talking about fighters from different eras.
You find
fighters from the same era
in the same weight class. In the same weight class.
Jake LaMotta and Rocky Graziano.
Ooh.
They fought each other. They fought each other in reform school, but they never fought each other in the ring. And they were popular guys in the 40s.
Or Lennox Lewis, Riddick Bowe.
Or even Riddick Bowe and Ray Mercer. I always wanted that one.
Oh my God, yeah.
There could have been fights. I like that. I give you credit if we do that.
Thank you.
You know what? There's infinite. You know what? We can do it. I mean, we're gonna have a lot of special issues next year. But even after the 100th year, we'll come out with special issues or compendiums, compilations, reprints, that kind of thing.
Right.
You remember when Ring did the 100 Greatest Punchers?
Oh my God, I still have that issue somewhere.
You have that issue? Yeah, it was a great collection.
That was a great one.
2003.
That's right. And Joe Louis.
2023
Joe Louis was the number one guy. Joe Louis was number one. That's right.
It'd be kind of cool to update it because there's, where does Deontay Wilder fall in that 100?
Ooh, interesting.
He's got to be in the top 100.
And definitely. And you know what? Another thing, Doug, which is interesting, you can't judge the fighter by their accomplishments. You got to judge by their natural punching power, right? Like Ernie Shavers, I think was in the top 15 for sure in that issue. But he wasn't a Hall of Fame fighter, but he was that puncher, so.
Right. Julian Jackson. Although Julian Jackson did get into the Hall of Fame, but I mean, he wasn't like a pound for pound rated dude when he was active. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's just a puncher.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
So,
wow. So stuff like that. That's what we're thinking about. That's what we're talking about. And God willing, we get it done. That's my mission. That's my top mission as editor in chief. Get us to 100 years, and then we go from there.
That's right. Wow.
100, and let's celebrate that. And that's a milestone. The centennial milestone's a big deal. It attracts a lot of attention, and let's see what we can do with that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? How can we capitalize off of that milestone?
Absolutely.
How many things can we do?
Can't wait for that. And Mr. Doug Fischer, great to have you finally on. So much to talk about. It's been so long. Yes, indeed. And such an honor to know you. Such an honor to gain your insight, knowledge, and your humility is incredible, as well. And thank you so much for being on. So much to talk about. Appreciate you.
Anytime.
Yes, indeed. And thank you all for watching So Much to Talk About. Have a wonderful night. God bless. Stay woke. Please treat each other with respect, for sure. We need it as we go into this new year, 2021. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Superhero.